Hello, students. We're going to work today on solving multi-step equations a second day. So we've learned how to solve multi-step equations, and now we're going to throw maybe some more difficult ideas in there with this. But we still want to remember that you will work your order of operations backwards. So I have those written down for us, the PEMDAS, and we want to work from undoing addition and subtraction first, then multiplying and dividing, and then finally undoing anything that has parentheses in it. Now, I will make an exception that if you have parentheses at the beginning of the problem, we may have to do something inside of those. So let's take a look at our first example, and what you'll notice is on problem number 1 that we have a variable on each side of the equal sign. So I first of all want you to take note of that equal sign, and we're going to split this, or I call it a separator, so that you have the left side of the equation and the right side of the equation. So I'm going to write that down here. We have 2 plus 5k is equal to 3k minus 6. And I'm going to draw that separator in one more time. So it says first to add or subtract so that the variable is on the left side of the equal sign. Now, technically, it doesn't matter whether it's on the left side or not, but I like to, if I have a choice, I like to get that variable on the left-hand side. So we are going to undo the fact that I have a positive 3k. You do have to pay attention to the sign in front of your expression. So I want to work with my term that has the variable with it. And it was positive. To zero it out, I'm going to have to subtract from both sides of the separator, both sides of the equal sign. And so this will zero out. And now I'll have 2 and then plus, now I have to do 5k minus 3k. That's going to give me 2k. I'll have my equal sign, and then I still have a negative with the 6. All right, now I want to continue to solve, but now I've made it so that I only have my variable showing up once, and I have it on the left side of the equal sign. So continuing to see your separator, I now need to undo that addition, working backwards through our PEMDAS. And so I'll subtract. I want to zero out this 2, so I'll subtract from both sides of the equal sign. And that will zero out, making me just have 2k on that left-hand side. Don't forget your equal sign. And then negative 6 minus 2 is negative 8. Feel free to use a calculator if you need it. Now we have multiplication. We want to undo multiplication by division. So I like to show that division as kind of like a fraction. I'm dividing on both sides of that equal sign. You want to divide by whatever number is in front of your variable. Whatever is multiplied to your variable, you're going to do the inverse operation. So we will divide by 2. That will cancel the 2's. And your solution then is k equals, and then negative 8 divided by 2 is negative 4. And there is your first problem solved for the variable. Again, we had a variable on both sides of the equal sign, and that was my first step to get the variables onto one side of the equal sign. All right, we'll move on and look at problem number 2. And so for problem number 2, we have a parentheses on one side of the equal sign, and then on the other side of the equal sign, no parentheses. Well, all right, I'm going to write my equation. So 4 times that parentheses, 4 minus w. Then you have your equal sign, that separator, and then 6w plus 6. So as I am working on this, we really need to see if we can simplify anything on one side of the separator, on one side of the equal sign. Well, I can simplify by removing that parentheses, doing the distributive property. So I can take 4 times 4, and that would give me 16. Then 4 times negative w, and so that would be a negative 4w. And then I have my equal sign. Now notice that I didn't do anything on the right-hand side of the equal sign. So I'm just going to recopy, bringing that down. And now I've created an equation that has the parentheses removed. And now I can work on getting my variables to one side of the equal sign. Well, so now I want to work with my 6w, which is on the right-hand side of the separator. I want to work with 6w, and to zero that out, I want to do the opposite. I would have minus 6w. I want to be sure to line that up on the other side of the equal sign underneath its like term. So minus 6w on the other side. And so I'll do the combining of terms, and 16 will be brought down. I have negative 4w and negative 6w. Two negatives, you add, you keep the sign, or use a calculator if you need. Negative 10w equals, and then 6w minus 6w, that's canceled out. We still have 6. We can continue to solve this one much like we did with your previous day's work. So we have this 16 that does not have a w with it. We'll need to make that cancel out. So I'll subtract 16 from both sides of the equal sign. And that's going to give me negative 10w, because this cancels out. Now, I'm actually going to go just a little bit below where it says the solution here. So negative 10w equals, and then 6 minus 16, that would be negative 10. Again, use a calculator if you do need. And then I have a negative 10 in front of the w. I want to divide by that on both sides of the equal sign. So divide by negative 10, we'll have that canceling out, and we'll get w equals, and then negative 10 divided by negative 10 is a 1. W equals 1. So notice that if you do have parentheses, you want to simplify. And then once again, we had w's on both sides of the equal sign. So we tried to get the w, and again, I like to get it on the left. So I worked with it until that happened. All right, we will continue on with problem number 3. And you want to be very careful to write down the correct problem, especially this negative sign in front of the 5. So negative 5x minus 10 equals, and then we have a 2, we have another negative, and then we have a parentheses. Well, in front of that parentheses, I'm going to put a 1, because that's going to help me remember that I'm distributing a negative 1 when I get ready to remove the parentheses. So whenever you have a negative sign in front of a parentheses like that, it's helpful to put a 1 in front of that parentheses. All right, again, carefully write down your problem. So we have negative 5x minus 10 equals, and then we have the 2, and I'm going to now get rid of or distribute and remove the parentheses. So negative 1 times x would be negative 1x, And negative 1 times 4 is negative 4. And I'll draw in the separator so that you can see that we have the left side and the right side of the equal sign. On the left side of the equal sign, we do not have any like terms, so we'll just continue to write that. On the right-hand side of the equal sign, though, we do have terms that do not have x's in them, the 2 and the negative 4, that need to be combined. So the 2 and the negative 4 would add up to negative 2. And then we will bring down the minus 1x. So once again, we've created an equation that has variables on both sides of the equal sign. So I'm going to draw the separator down just a little bit more. And I'd like to get my x's on the left-hand side of the equal sign. I'll do that by taking the minus 1x and doing the opposite operation. So I'll add 1x. I want to be sure to add that to the like term on the left-hand side of the equal sign, on the left-hand side of the separator. And so when I combine those, negative 5x plus 1x will give me negative 4x. And then I have minus 10, my equal sign. Notice on this side, negative 1x plus 1x will cancel or zero out, and I'll still have this negative 2. At this point, I can continue on doing the opposite operations. So I want to get rid of this minus 10. I want to zero that out. I'll do that by adding 10 to both sides of the equal sign, to both sides of the separator. And so that makes my negative 10 and positive 10 cancel out. Now I have negative 4x, my equal sign, and then 10 and negative 2 will combine, and that will give me 8. And then finally, I'm ready to undo or do the inverse of multiplication by doing division. And so dividing both sides by negative 4, I get my final answer of x equals negative 2. I'm going to tell you that when I originally did this problem, I forgot the negative in front of the 5x. And so when I got to the end, I didn't get the answer that I expected. So that is going to happen to you. Go back and look. What did you maybe miscopy? Maybe you didn't write down a negative sign somewhere. Those are mistakes that often get made, and you just have to go back, and that's part of learning to solve equations, is going back and finding your mistakes and fixing them.